Part 1, Segment 1, Describing Games. As I like to do, I often like to start lectures with a question. So last time I asked you, why are you here to make games? And what a game is like. Today I want to ask, how do we describe games? How do we describe what a game is like? So take a second, or if you're watching live, you can go ahead and type it in. If you were to describe the last game that you played, how would you describe it? And think about it for a second. Write it down if you want. How would you describe the last game that you played? A lot of students will start by saying, well, it was a top-down shooter with horde mechanics, or it was a JRPG with some real-time elements, or it was a action strategy game with a heavy crafting system. And that's actually not how your average player is going to start describing games. As game design nerds, it's okay. You're in a safe place. You came to this school for a reason. We often start with the mechanics. All of those things that I just said are mechanics. It's top-down shooter. It's a first-person shooter, what have you. But that's not typically how our average player will describe it. Usually, John Q. Gamer will start by saying one of two things. It was awesome, or it sucked. They start with the emotion, the experience. Remember, as a game designer, you are not paid to make mechanics. Mechanics are a means to the end. You're paid to create user experiences, hopefully positive ones, definitely engaging, something that the user is going to want more of, or is going to go to school or work or wherever tomorrow and tell people about. So they download it. They download the DLC. They download the updates, the additional content. Make the microtransaction. Keep playing. They don't do that because of mechanics. They do that because of their experience. And the mechanics, again, they're just the means to the end. So another very popular, probably most common way that we describe what a game is like is genre. Genre tells us so much about the game. If I say FPS, just those three letters, I know a lot about a first-person shooter. We'll talk about this later when we talk about schema, but I know all of these things. I probably already am thinking about how I'm moving, how I'm shooting, how I'm looking with my mouse, how I'm going to navigate environments. So genre tells us a lot, but it's important for you as game designers to know how to describe games efficiently, because you have to describe games that don't exist. You have to describe games that we can't go out to YouTube and watch a playthrough or read an article about it, or heck, download it or go pick it up and play it and say, see, here's what it's like. Why don't you just try it out for yourself? You have to describe games that are just up here in your head. So let's talk about how we do that. So mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics was largely developed by these three individuals. A lot of people have contributed and added to it since. But Robin Hunke, these are the folks known for the heavy lifting of it. She was credited with Sims, Boombox, and she's very involved with experimental gameplay. Robert Zubek, not to be confused with Zubat. Yeah, he was with Zynga, and finally Mark LeBlanc. That's not Matt LeBlanc. He was with Riot and 2K, and they did the heavy lifting on this mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics model. So just a little bit of history there. Let's talk about it.